Hello everybody, my name is Abarka Abdullah. In this video, I am going to explain a real example of the Vlookup function that will help you master the function very well. I believe that the best way to learn something is to get your hands on it and make mistakes. This way, you will be able to learn much faster. Instead of explaining to you a painful review of every aspect of the Vlookup function, I personally selected and explained over 10 Vlookup examples that will help you learn much faster. I will walk you through examples that solve practical problems while furthering your knowledge of Excel as a whole. I have already explained all the 10 Vlookup examples in a blog post. So in this video, I will actually explain the first example of the Vlookup function. If you want more Vlookup examples, you should click over to my website. A link will be pasted in the description below. Before we begin, please head over to my website at softwareaccountant.com and download the examples. Without further ado, let's get started with the basics. Let me briefly explain what the Vlookup function is and what it does. Vlookup is a function in Excel that looks for something in a range of cells. When that something is found, it looks to the right to return something that's in the same row as the value it looked for. To understand this better, let me give you this example. Take your mind back to school. What happens when exam results were posted on the notice board? Everybody rushes to the notice board. First, you start looking for your name or student number. As soon as you find your name, you stop there and begin to roll your eyes to the right of your name to see your marks for the various courses. That's exactly how the Vlookup function does. It looks for something in a column, like your student name. As soon as it finds the name, it starts looking to the right for some other information, like your scores for a particular subject, say math. Basically, this scenario explains exactly what the Vlookup function does in Excel. Let's start playing with an example. In this example, you are going to learn how to find student score using the Vlookup function. This worksheet has a table with 5 columns and 11 rows, with the first column being names of students, and the remaining columns are scores for English, French, Math, and Science. Now, to illustrate the Vlookup function in this example, we are going to search for a student called David in this column. That is the first column. Then we will move to the fourth column and fetch the math score for David and put it in cell G3 using the Vlookup function. Without further ado, let's get to work. First, specify the cell where you want to write the formula. In Excel, formulas are entered into cells. So the first step in writing the Vlookup function is to specify a cell that will contain the Vlookup formula. In this example, we will use cell G3 for the formula. Let's proceed to the next step. Double-click the cell you choose for the formula to turn it into editing mode. When a cell is in editing mode, you can type anything into that cell. Now begin writing the Vlookup function by typing the equal sign. The equal sign is what tells Excel that you are trying to write a formula. If you don't start with an equal sign, Excel will never see it as a formula, which also means that the Vlookup function will never work without the equal sign. After typing the equal sign, type the function name, which is Vlookup, and then type the opening brackets. As soon as you type the opening brackets, Excel will display a tooltip showing you what you will type next. Anything that you type after the opening brackets is called an argument. In this tooltip here, you will see arguments like lookup value, table array, column index number, and range lookup. These argument names will never make sense to you now if you are a complete beginner. But don't worry, by the time you finish watching this video, you will understand these things better. Now let's move to the next step. Specify the first argument, which is the lookup value. What exactly is the lookup value? In simple terms, it is the value you are looking for in the first column of the data set. For instance, we are looking for the name David in the first column of this data set. Therefore, David is the lookup value in this example. The lookup value is the value the function is searching for. But how do you write the lookup value? Pay attention here. If the lookup value is a number, for example 7, you just write 7 as the lookup value and then type the comma sign and move on to the next argument. However, if the lookup value is not a number but a word, like David, you must surround it with double quotations. For instance, if I just write David as the lookup value, it will never work and will result in an error. What I should rather do is to surround David with double quotation marks. This way, Excel will be able to identify and find the lookup value in the list. After typing the lookup value, type comma to move to the next argument. As soon as you type comma after the first argument, you will notice that the second argument in the tooltip here gets bolding. It is telling you that that's the next argument you need to type. Specify the second argument, which is the table array. And what is table array? It is the data set or the table that contains the data you are working with. In this example, the table array is cell A1 to E11. That's from this point A1 to this point E11. The easiest way to specify the table array is to select it with your mouse. If you want to type it, you might make a mistake. So instead, just select from A1 and then drag over to cell E11. As you can see here, after selecting this range, Excel will insert the table array for you. After specifying the table array, type the comma sign again to move on to the next argument, which is the column index number. Here also, after typing the comma sign, the tooltip will move to another argument called column index number. What is column index number? It is a number that represents the column from which you want to fetch the data. For instance, in this example, the data set is up to 5 columns wide, and we want to get David's math score from column D. That's the column containing the math score for all the students. Therefore, counting from left to right, the column index number will be 4, with the student's name column being the first column, followed by the English column as the second, then the French column being the third column, and now the math column being the fourth column. Therefore, the column index number is supposed to be 4. After specifying the column index number, type the comma sign to move on to the next argument. And the next argument is called the range lookup. What is range lookup? This option gives you the chance to decide whether you want an approximate match or an exact match. With the approximate match, Excel will look for a value that is closest to the lookup value. Approximate match is mostly useful when looking for numerical values. However, the exact match will look for a value that is equal to your lookup value. So, how do you choose between exact match and approximate match? It's very easy. Just double-click to pick false from the helper menu that shows up after entering the comma sign. This is my advice to you if you are just beginning to learn the Vlookup function. Always pick the exact match. when writing the Vlookup function. It will save you from making unnecessary errors. As you can see from the helper drop-down, true is for approximate match, whilst false is for exact match. So in this example, I will double-click to select false, which stands for exact match. After specifying the last argument, your Vlookup formula should look like this. It's now time to close the formula. And if you want to close a formula in Excel, type a closing parenthesis to complete the formula. After closing the brackets, press enter to retrieve the math score for David. At this point, you will notice that the resulting value is 87, which is the math score for David. This is how you may write a Vlookup formula in Excel. This example of Vlookup just explained the very basis of the Vlookup function. Now, let me show you a very interesting technique about the Vlookup function. If you want to find the math score for William, all you need to do is to edit the formula and change the lookup value here to William instead of David. This way, the function will retrieve the math score for a student called William. But there's a problem here. If you have to edit the formula every time you want to get the score for a different student, it will be time consuming. This is where cell referencing comes to play. We can actually use a cell address as the lookup value. Like, instead of typing a student name here, we type G3. This way, if we enter a student's name in cell G3, the formula will be able to give us the math score for that student. So instead of typing the lookup value in a double quotation marks, you can refer to another cell that has the lookup value